In this video, we're going to go through the customer setup. If I go down to into the customer module and down to the bottom of the menu options here, we've got a setup folder, and I'm going to expand that, and that's what we're going to have a look at first. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do on the training document is to amend the details on the UK consumer class template to have wholesale pricing. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the CRM module, I briefly explained how these customer templates work to put the correct details onto the customer record when we create it. Now, it's in here in the customer setup that we actually can see all the templates and we can go and amend them. So if I double click on customer class template, now what you'll see is that we've got lots and lots of templates. I think if I do view all, that we've got 478 templates. Now it's basically 2 templates for pretty much every country in the world. Okay, so we've got them for everything. Now basically these should be defaulting the correct details onto whichever country's account when you create an account for that country. Now what we're going to do is go in and amend the United Kingdom consumer class template. So if I search for United King or United Kingdom in there, it'll basically bring up any matching search results, and you can see we've got 3. Now the 2 that are actually being used for the United Kingdom are this business one and this consumer one. Now it's consumer one we want to amend, so I'm going to double click on the consumer template, which takes us into it. Okay, so we want to amend this to have wholesale pricing from retail pricing. So down here we've got default price, and at the moment it's retail, and I'm just going to change it over to wholesale. Okay, and I'm going to click save, and then what we're then going to do is go back to the list option, and on the UK business template we're going to change it so that the default terms are 30 days net. So at the moment, payment term due on order, if I go in there, we've got net 30. And then I'm going to save and close on that. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is create some delivery routes. So into delivery route, and this is just a list where we can key them in. So I'm going to have route 1 and 002 route 2. Okay, in this screen it's slightly different in that the active flag doesn't automatically appear, so just make sure that you tick the active flag on both of them options. Okay, and then we'll save and close. The next thing we're going to do is look at the ship to templates and amend one of them. Now, similar to when you create a customer and you get a customer class template which defaults the details onto the customer record, we also have the same thing for ship tos. Now in Enterprise you can have multiple ship tos for one customer. So if you've got a customer base, say in the UK, but they may have other locations around the UK and maybe some even in France or Germany, you can actually create ship tos for all these different places, and then when you create a sales order or an invoice, you can select the ship to from the list. So basically the ship to class template holds some of the details that will go onto the ship to records when they're created. So what we're going to do is search for the United Kingdom again, and we're looking for the business ship to class template, and we're going to go down to the route, and we're going to change that and set it to be route number 1. Okay, and I'm going to save and close out of the ship to class template. Next thing we're going to do is look at debtor letters. So if I double click on the debtor letter option, you can see as standard in here we've got 1, 30 and 60 day debtor letter already set up. Now what we want to do is actually create another debtor letter that we're going to have for 45 days. So for transactions between the 30 and 60 bracket, we're going to have an additional letter to send out to our customers. Okay, so to create a new one, we've got the new button on the toolbar again, and we're actually going to call this 45 days. So I'll have 45 days in there. The description is going to be debtor letter 45 days, and the days overdue is going to be 45. And the bit of text that we're going to put on this, if we send them this debt letter, is please pay, or we'll send some dangerous toys around. Okay, so when I'm happy with that, I can, if I click save and go back to the list again, we'll see the 45 days one in there now. Next thing we're going to do is create a new customer type. So customer type option. Okay, at the moment we've got a few in there you may or may not want to use for your new company. We're going to add another one in there called Toy Shop. Again, make sure it's ticked as active. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is go and create a new customer. So right up to the top of the menu there, you'll notice the first one is prospect. We've already created a prospect from the CRM module, so we're going to go straight into new customer. Okay, so again, this is very similar to creating a prospect. Prospects and customers in the database are pretty much identical. So our customer name, or our company name for this customer, is going to be A Toy Customer UK Limited. I'm just going to put a capital C on the customer. Okay, and the contact for this is going to be Mr. A Toy. Again, we can enter our postcode in here if we wish to, or we could leave it and enter it on the next screen. And this is going to be a business one. So as soon as I change that, you've seen it select the business template. Okay, so if I click next, and I'm going to key in the rest of the details. Now we're going to set the payment terms to be 30 days net with 2% discount if paid within 7 days. Okay, now when I try and select that payment term onto there, you'll notice that this payment term is not in the business group, because we've got a group for our terms and we've got payment terms. This is so we can restrict what payment terms certain customers can select from. So obviously from an internet, from a web shop point of view, if you've got people buying online, you're probably going to want to limit them to only pay on credit card. So you may have a payment term group of web customer or something like that, and then another payment group of account customer. And then if they're an account customer, you give them 30 days terms. If they're a new customer on the web, you're just going to say you need to pay by credit card. So these two term groups, and it's the same for shipping methods, are just a way of limiting the payment terms and shipping methods that a customer can choose from. So in this, what I'm actually going to have to do is add this payment term that I want into the business group. So if I double click on the payment term group, it will open that group up, and we can see that my 2% 7 one, which is the one I want, is over in the left hand side in our existing terms rather than is actually in our group. So I'm going to move that one across. Okay, save and close, and then hopefully when I use my drop down again, I've now got my 2% 7 in there. What I'm also just going to check is that the root code has come through properly from the template. If I set it up correctly, it should hopefully have done. Okay, so if I finish this wizard to show me the proper customer record, what I can then do, because the root is on the ship to, I go into ship to list. I can then double click on the ship to that's been created, and then into the setup tab, and down here is the root code. Now I can see that root code number 1 is on there, so that's okay. Okay, so we'll come out of the ship to, back to the main customer record, and the other thing that I want to do is give my customer a type of toy shop, which is also what we put in there. Okay, so now I'm happy that I've put all the details in. I'm going to save and close on that. I'm going to create another customer, this time a US customer. So new customer. In here I'm going to put United Kingdom, United States even. I'm going to have to put a name in down there. So a US customer Inc. Then I'll go back up to here and put United States. Okay, and I'm going to change the contact name to be Mr. US Contact. And the zip code this time is 90210. And this again is a business one, so I need to make sure that I've got business selected. Okay, and then click next. Now it's obviously put all the main address details in from the zip code, because we've got the searchable postal codes in there for the US, as I mentioned in the CRM module. And all I've got to key in now is the main address details, or the first line of the address details, which is 1400 Roxton Avenue. Okay, so there's the address filled in. I'm going to put a telephone number on this. You can see that because it's US, the currency has come in off that. The US dollars currency has defaulted onto that. And also we've got some formatting on the telephone number as well, because on the country for the US, which we'll cover later, there's actually some formatting in there for the telephone numbers. Okay, so I'm going to click finish, which shows me my proper customer. So now I'm going to change that to toy shop so that they've got a customer type in there, and I finish with that record. So I'm going to save and close, and then finally go and create another one, which is going to be a French one. Called a French customer with the contact name of Mr. French Contact. Okay, this postal code is going to be PAR 123, and again this is a business one. Change that to business. Okay, so I'll go next, and as we can see that Euro has defaulted onto here from the template, so that's all correct. And now I'm going to key the address details in. Okay, and now I'm going to finish the wizard, and I'm also going to put a customer type in again of toy shop. So I've created a couple of different customers there, different currency customers. And the next thing I'm going to do is create a new sales rep. So again, it's the next option down, option 2 or 3 on the menu here. And go new sales rep. And we're going to call this super sales agent. Okay, and we're going to give him 10% on revenue, just 10% on sales basically. And again, I can fill in all the address details, etc. in here if I want to. Now the important flag on the sales agent or a sales rep that's going to be an agent is the create bill for commission flag. If this is ticked, the supplier account will be created for the sales rep, and then when we process the commissions via the commission run option, a purchase bill will be created onto the supplier account. Now this is for people who pay their sales reps as suppliers rather than through their own payroll. So the rep isn't actually on their payroll as an employee, they're more of an agent, or as it suggests. Okay, so for this super sales agent, we're going to actually leave that ticked so that we'll get a supplier account created. So we'll click finish, and then that'll again show us the sales rep option here. And in the setup tab, this is where we've got the commissions, etc., and we can change them later. And this is where it knows about the whether it creates a bill for the commission or not. Okay, so I need to create another sales rep, so this time I click save and new, so it launches the wizard again basically on the top of the other one, and this time we're just going to have sales rep 1 as the name. Okay, and go next on that. Now this is going to be 5%, and we're going to base his commission on profit, so we change that to profit. And for this one, because we're going to pay this through our payroll, we're going to untick that box there. Okay, and then we're going to finish, save and close to come out of that, and this is our previous sales rep form, or is it even it's a blank because I did save and new. But if I go into find sales rep, I'll see that I've got both my agent and my rep sitting there, and I can go back into them like that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I need to assign one of these sales reps, or I could assign, either to some accounts, to my customer accounts. So to do that, I've got to go back into find customer, and I've got my 3 that I created. We also have a default e-commerce shopper, but that gets created for you as standard in the database. It's just basically again for the web. It's the customer it uses if you're not logged in as anyone. Okay, so what I want to go and do in here is go and amend all of these customers and put the super sales agent on each of the customers. Now we do that in the setup tab of a customer. On the bottom here we've got sales rep group, and basically we're going to select super sales agent. So I'm going to save and close. It asked me on the way out there if I wanted to update all the ship tos with the change. So if we've got multiple ship tos for this customer, do we want to update them all, which I do, to put them all so that if he sells to anyone on them ship tos as well, he'll still get the commission. And I get asked that when I amend all of these basically. So super sales agent again, save and close. Yes, I want to save, and last one, update all the ship tos. Yes. Okay, so now when I go and process an order for any of these customers, then my super sales agent would get the commission off them all. Okay, we're now going to enter some opening balance transactions against the customers that I've just manually created. So to do that, we're going to go back down to the setup part down here, and it's the first option in the setup, opening balance. Okay, and I want a toy customer UK to be on my first line. Okay, and then opening invoice. The document code I'm going to put in is inv-001. And you'll notice it puts OBC in front of that so that we know it's an opening balance transaction basically. And then the date is going to be the 1st of the 11th. Now what I should have really done before I started doing this is set my date back to be a date in November or December last year, so that I don't put any in with the current date, because it's quite easy to make a mistake like that. So I'm going to have to keep changing it back on mine now. But if I was to change my system date, which is done by changing it on the double-clicking the clock in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, and then changing the system date through there, then it saves you possibly entering a transaction into the wrong period or the wrong date. Okay, so we're having verbal for F1, and the total is going to be £100 on this first one. The terms default from the customer record. Okay, so if I want to put another line in that's pretty much identical to that, except for one or two changes, I can use the copy button. Now it says down here in the bottom right hand corner of this window, F6 to copy selected row. So what I'm going to do is basically hit the F6 button, and that'll copy that down for me. So then all I need to do is ring the changes, as it were. So this is going to be inv-002. Okay, again it puts the OBC in front of it, and this is going to be dated the 7th of November rather than the 1st of November. It's still going to be a verbal, and this time it's going to be £200. Okay, now the third line is going to be a credit line, so I'm just going to key that in manually. So I'm going to change the type here from opening invoice to opening credit. Okay, this is going to be SC-001 for my document code, and the date on this is going to be the 7th of the 12th the 1st of the 12th 2007. So let's change that to be 1st of the 12th. Reference 1 and 2 are both blank on this one, and this is just going to be a £50 credit. Okay, the next one's going to be for our French customer. Again, it's an invoice. This is going to be INV-003. And this is going to be for the 14th of the 12th. This time it's got a reference 1 of 123. And you can see before I get to the total there, just something quite interesting is that it's got a red cross next to the value. And that's because it's saying that I need to enter something into that field. And until I actually get to that field and put something in, it's not actually going to get rid of that cross, and it basically says there the total needs to be between 1 and 99999. So it's basically just saying what exactly the problem is with that field. If you hover over the crosses, it will tell you what it's expecting there. So this is going to be for 1,000, and this is going to be euros because obviously it's our French customer. That again is defaulting from the customer record itself. Okay, and the last one is the US customer, so again a US customer. Again it's an invoice, it's going to be inv-004. The date on this is going to be the 1st of the 12th 2007. Okay, and it's going to have a reference of 234 and a value of $2,000. Okay, so now that I've keyed all them in, then I can hit the save key, which will post all these straight into the ledger, straight into the nominal they're going to go straight in there. Basically, it's going to create the journals and everything for us, so the journal postings will all be there. So if I then want to see what I've done so far, we've got a history tab, and I can then look back onto the history tab to see what I've posted previously. Okay, and I can then go and key some more in if need be, if I wanted to. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is do some importing into the customer ledger or the customer module. Okay, so again, like we did for prospect, I'm going to have to go into System Manager to do any of my importing, and into the import wizard. And the first thing we're going to do is select the customer, and the first thing we're going to do is a customers import. So we're going to actually browse for the files, and we've got customer opening balances import, customers import with opening balances, or customers import on their own. So these two files here are the first two we're going to bring in. Now customers import on its own is just a list of customers names, customers with names and addresses, etc. And customers import with opening balances is basically the same list of names and addresses, but we're going to have a single figure on there for an opening balance amount against that customer. So not split up with different invoices or anything like that, like we've just keyed in. It's just one lump sum figure for that customer. And the last one we're going to bring in is our customer opening balances import, which will basically just be opening balances on their own for customers that we've already got in the database. Okay, so the first one I want to do is customers import. Okay, select the file. If I just browse and select the file, it automatically ticks that as thinking that I want to import. Okay, and I'm going to start importing. Successfully imported, click button for details. Again, if there's any errors, clicking the button would show the errors. And if we do get any errors, it won't import anything. Any error at all, it will not import full stop. And if it's reading the file and it gets to 5 errors, it will basically quit after the 5 errors. It won't read through the whole file, because that could take quite a lot of time. And if chances are, if there's 5 errors, you'll be able to work out from them 5 that error will also occur on a lot of the other rows. So that's why we do that. Okay, so that was successful, which is good. So I'm going to try and import the second file now, which is just my customers, but with some opening balance details in there as well. So again, I'm using the customers one, the second one, not the opening balance one for this one. Okay, and we'll bring them in. Hopefully they'll all come in as well. Successfully imported, which is good. And now if I just go back to customer and into find customer, you'll see I've got a lot more customers in there than I had a few minutes ago. Okay, and you'll see for some of them they've got balances, and this is because of that second file I brought in had an opening balance figure on it. Okay, the last file that we're going to bring in, I'm just going to have to go and have a look at the last file to show you. Just open that up so that we can see what we've got in here. Now this last file is just basically going to be opening balances on their own, and we're going to import these opening balances for customers that are already within the database. So what we're going to do is 2 of these transactions are going to be for our French customer and 2 are going to be for our US customer, and then both them customers are ones that I manually created just earlier on. Okay, so what I need to do in here to be able to get this to import is amend the customer codes to be actual valid customer codes in the database. So what I'm going to do now is leave that open and go back into my database, and when I'm in the find customer screen, if I have a look for my French customer, I can see that the customer code is cust-4015. So that's the customer code I need for that one. So for the first 2 records, I'm going to let them be for my French customer. Okay, and the second two I want for my US customer. So if I go back in here, I've got a US customer ring, which is number 14. So I'm basically gonna do a similar thing on there. We're gonna have 14 in there. Okay, so now that I've got filled them in, then it should be happy to import that file. So I'm just gonna save my file and quit it. Always important to quit the file after you've saved it, just in case it might lock the file sometimes otherwise. And I'm going to go back into my import wizard and hopefully try and import that file. So if I go to customer and then customer opening balances this time, because there's no customer details in there, it is purely transactions, and I browse for my file and customer opening balances import. Start importing, and it was successful, which is good. So if I now go and have a look at my French or US customer, then I will now see that I've got balances against them, whereas I wouldn't have done before. So that concludes our customer setup module. The next video will cover supplier setup.